Hey guys, Jessica here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm participating in the Save the Crafty YouTuber video hop. There are prizes that you can win, so make sure that you are commenting. I just want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. They've been very generous, and specifically Art Impressions for sponsoring this giveaway on this video. And the next person in this video hop is linked down below in the description box. Alright, so some of the products I'm using is some watercolor paper from Canson. It's their Montvol series. I think that's how you say that. And I'm also going to use some Versafine, Clair, and Nocturne to stamp out some Art Impressions Succulents. This is from their Succulent set. Since they're a sponsor for this video, I thought I would use this set that I recently bought. And I really love succulents. They're so pretty, but I do have a habit of killing them. They're supposed to be kind of hard to kill, I think, but I do. And I also use my embossing buddy to get rid of any static or fingerprint oils or anything like that. That way the embossing powder only sticks to the areas that I want it to stick to. And I did that before I stamped. I do find it's a little easier to get some good impressions from stamping in like a large group like this if I do the stamping in layers. So I've already laid out all the stamps I want just to have them on the paper and on the stamp platform, but then I only ink up the top part, then the middle, and then the bottom row, and that just helps me from over inking, because if I'm not paying attention, I will over ink everything. So I went ahead and heat set this because it's clear embossing powder and there's really not much to look at. And I'm going to do some watercoloring with these succulents. I am going to color a lot more than what you just see here. It's about double. I do stamp and color the larger images multiple times. And then to watercolor with, I'm using some Distress Oxide inks in Dusty Concord, Seedless Preserves, Peeled Paint, Cracked Pistachio, Fossilized Amber, and then I do add in some Twisted Citron a little bit later. To watercolor with, I'm using a Prima water brush, and I don't know if they actually sell this particular one anymore. I have several water brushes that I actually really like, and I'm kind of picky about them. This one does have a really good flow of water. It's not a constant flow, you do have a lot of control. And I'm just going to grab some of that Seedless Preserves. That's a really pretty, kind of like a pinky purple color. And I'm going to concentrate most of that on the middle section and then blend out with some clean water to the outer edges. And then before I go any further with the outer edges, I'm going to add in some Dusty Concord in those shadowy areas to kind of deepen those a little bit. And Dusty Concord is a really great color to watercolor with because it can lend more towards a darky. It can lend more towards a dark purple, or it can go a little bit more on a blue. I really like Distress Oxide inks because they have that pigment, but what's great about the pigment is that you can layer the colors very easily. So for that middle top one, I colored it with some of that Fossilized Amber, and then added in some of that Dusty Concord. And the Dusty Concord will actually just sit on top of that Fossilized Amber and not really mix in with it too much, especially if you don't use a whole lot of water, instead of it just turning to mud, because yellow and purple will just turn to mud. They really do layer nice. And I show that here also with that green and purple. I used the green first, and I used some of that Dusty Concord in the middle. It was a little bit too dark and a little bit too wet, so I just dabbed off a bit of that Distress Oxide ink, and you still get a nice light purple to green coloring. So if you ever find that your colors are muddying up when you're using Distress Oxide inks, it might be just because you have too much water. Since I have my glass media mat out, I'm going to clean that up real quick. It's so easy to clean. And then I can set it up for a stencil. And I'm just using one from Crafter's Companion. This is actually their web stencil. I don't know, it just fit with the succulents to me. It's going to be a really nice background piece to those. I'm ink blending some Stormy Sky Distress Oxide inks over the top with a makeup blending brush. And I'm just going to concentrate that color right in the center mostly and fade out from there. The Stormy Sky Distress Oxide ink on top of the soft navy cardstock from Simon Says Stamp is really pretty, and it just gives like a lighter chalky effect. So since this stamp set comes with the dies, I'm going to cut out all of my succulents using it. And the one on the top right there, you'll see 3 little succulents. I didn't realize, but those ones don't come with dies. But they're so small that they're really easy to cut out. It took me quite a long time to try to arrange those dies to the correct position of the succulents. Once I did it like a few times though, it was a little bit easier. So I'm going to run that through my die cut machine with some purple tape, that way the dies don't move. And then I'm going to pop all those out. Super easy. I'm using a small little container. These are like nesting water containers for watercolors. So right about here is actually when I realized that I could very easily turn this little panel that I have into a card, because I also have quite a few extra pieces. So I decided to do that real quick. So that'll start adding on now. I didn't think of it beforehand, so I kind of like how I progressed from 1 card to 2 cards, like just right in the middle of everything, but sometimes that does happen. So I'm going to run the dies through again with some, this is just some white craft foam. I also used a sentiment die for this card. It's one of those ones that have a layer to it. I ran the base layer through my Big Shot with vellum, the skinnier version through with just some Nina 80-pound cardstock. And then I could glue those together with some multimedia matte glue. That's the liquid glue that I kind of prefer. But I do try out a different kind of glue. This is like Ultra Bond glue from iCraft. So now I can start arranging everything onto that soft navy panel. I grabbed all the ones that I wanted to use for that panel first, and then I'm going to go ahead and pick out the other ones for that extra panel, the second card that I'm making now. If I have an arrangement, one way I like to make sure that I remember it is by taking a quick photo with my phone, because I normally have my phone around me somewhere. I do that a lot with other things too. That way I can glue things back into place. But if I still want to switch it up, like if I think of a better arrangement or something, I can go ahead and change that, of course. And I'm just using that Ultra Bond glue again to glue all those down. I'm going to set a couple of clear blocks on top. That way they dry flat. Going back to that second panel, I first made a mistake because this wasn't a planned card. So I originally wanted to pop up a few of those succulents on this panel, but I went ahead and I just glued it to a piece of craft foam. This is a really pretty teal color, and it's just some cheap stuff that you can get at Michael's. And I'm having some good luck die cutting it, so it's been fun playing with all those different colors. It's like a variety pack that it comes in. But what I should have done is taken out the ones that I wanted to pop up. I went ahead and I adhered it to that craft foam. Not too long after, I realized that I didn't want to do that yet. So I had to peel up those 3 lower succulents, so that's why it looks a little wonky. And I just added more glue and added the craft foam to them, and it turned out just fine. I was lucky that I didn't tear anything though. Or that glue definitely does adhere to that craft foam, so that was kind of a nice surprise. There's quite a few sentiments in the succulent set, and I did pick out a few to use on both cards. Not only am I going to have the You the Best on that soft navy panel, but I'm going to have one that is like a little wax mark. It says thank you. And I thought that was really cute. So I embossed that with white embossing powder on some vellum. I wanted to add some splatter to these 2 cards, and I really like the look of the Kuretake Champagne Gold. I think that's my favorite one to splatter. It just, when it dries, it just flashes, I think, the most. It's very striking, so I like to use that one a lot. After I spritz the watercolor with some water, I used one of my makeup blending brushes to pick up the watercolor pigment, and I used an acrylic block, and then I could gently sweep it across, and it created a really lovely splatter. I didn't really know what to do with these smaller skinny brushes, but I found a couple techniques that are pretty cool, and this is one of them. They actually do splatter pretty well. I'm going to also do that with some black Nuvo drops. And again, I just put a little bit of that Nuvo drops onto that acrylic block. spritzed it with a little bit of water, and then mixed it with that blending brush, that small flat one. Mixed it with some water and then used the blending brush to mix it up really well. Then I could spritz the card front with that blending brush and black Nuva drops. And so the Nuva drop will still have a glossy shine to it even after it's been splattered like this. I do the Nuva drop and the gold watercolor splatter to both card fronts. So I've just been gluing everything together. I have the sentiments glued onto that soft navy cardstock. Now I can add that second card front to a card base that just has a piece of black cardstock over the front. I decided to leave off that top left-hand corner right by the succulent. It was just a little piece that kind of fell off there because it has no attachment. But I really like that teal blue craft foam underneath. It went so well with the rest of the colors that I decided to leave it off, and so you just get a glimpse, and it still has that stitching that goes all the way around because I use the same dies. So after that, I'm just going to add some halfback flat gems to both cards and a few sequins. And that'll be it for this video. So I really hope you enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to make. Justine, thank you so much for including me in this video hop. You really are amazing for doing all of this work. The next person in line for the video hop is linked down below in the description box. And that's it from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Meh, meh.